Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter, and I have been your beat reporter covering the Jacksonville Jaguars for On SI every single day since August 2019, and we are continuing to march forward to another training camp together. As always, you can always find our 100% free, 24/7 boots on the ground coverage of the Jacksonville Jaguars when you follow us on social media such as Facebook and Twitter at Jaguars on SI. You can also find us at www.si.com/NFL/Jaguars. Hello, folks, and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. We are here to talk about Day 6 of Jacksonville Jaguars training camp, their second day in pads, Tuesday at the Miller Electric Center. As always, we were there for every single snap to give you our look at what we saw at Jaguars training camp. Tuesday was a lot of situational work, I'd say. You saw a lot of short yardage work, situations, running the ball, etc. You saw a lot of third downs. You saw a 2-minute drill. You saw them trying to set up a field goal. And you also saw a lot of red zone work. So it felt like Tuesday, Monday really felt like, okay, get the pads on, go be physical, and let's see what comes of it. While Tuesday felt very, kind of strategic in what they were trying to accomplish, and it was clear that they were trying to really put a focus on situational football. In terms of who won the day, it felt like Monday was a clear, win for the offense. Tuesday, I think, is a lot more back and forth. In the competitive reps, the defense won 5-4. It's very helpful that they keep the scoreboard up for those. But I thought overall that it was a balanced day. You saw both sides kind of make plays. The guy who stood out to me, once again, Travis Hunter. I know. We've talked Travis Hunter ad nauseum. Everybody has. He is arguably the most interesting story in the NFL heading into the 2025 season. That just doesn't happen in Jacksonville. It hasn't happened since I've been covering this team at the very least, and I'm not sure it's come close to happening. Travis Hunter is that kind of, lightning rod of conversation. He is the guy who everybody is looking at to, see what is he doing, to see what position is he playing that day, etc. And I think over the course of the offseason program and then the early stages of the training camp, I'd say you saw Travis Hunter trying to get his footing a little bit. That's not saying anything negative, saying he struggled or anything. He just, he looked like an immensely talented rookie, but still looked like a rookie. Still looked like he was trying to, find his way a little bit. Sunday's practice at defensive back, and then Tuesday's practice at wide receiver, Travis Hunter looks settled in. Those are, in my opinion, the two best practices he's had since joining the team in last April's draft. So that's, rookie minicamp, OTAs, in the early, first week or so of training camp. To me, he was absolutely phenomenal on Tuesday. He made several impressive grabs. One was a touchdown during red zone drills. Trevor Lawrence broke out of the pocket, to avoid a sack. You have complete scramble drill, and he found the soft spot in the left corner of the end zone, sat down, made the catch. I want to say it's the first touchdown that he has scored in a Jaguars practice in a team setting. I could be wrong on that. But it definitely showed, this is a guy who, okay, he's starting to get his timing and his, how synced he is with the quarterback. He's starting to get that down some. He's starting to be somebody who is, making those off-schedule plays as opposed to the plays that are just kind of designed to go to him. He made other nice plays. He made a good catch over the middle where he definitely got thumped by Andrew Wingard, and he kind of just bounced off of him. You can see how he's going to be dangerous on yards after the catch. I will say, with his size and with his frame, do you want to see him going over the middle, all that often? I'd say maybe not. But I do think, the fact that he has shown physicality and toughness, and he has not shied away from doing it over the course of training camp so far, has been a really positive sign for how he's going to transition at wide receiver. And, he made other nice grabs throughout the day. And then you look at his performance in one-on-ones. I think he's the toughest Jaguars receiver to cover in one-on-ones. And that includes Brian Thomas, who I obviously don't need to explain how phenomenal that he is. He is a legitimate blue chip talent at wide receiver. But just because of the settings that one-on-ones are, one-on-ones, they are a little unrealistic. You don't see too many reps in it that kind of resemble what you see during an NFL game. But to me, that's where you can kind of pinpoint and really look at what Travis Hunter is kind of bringing to the table, tools-wise as a wide receiver. The athlete that he is, the quickness he has, the acceleration that he has, the ability to decelerate, he's just running away from guys. Jordan Lewis has been absolutely phenomenal in training camp. I'd argue been one of their top 3 performers. And he beat Jordan Lewis bad in a one-on-one. He beat, to me, I believe he had 3 one-on-ones. He had 3 wins. And he's somebody who I think you're starting to see that light kind of come on. You're starting to see that switch being flipped a little bit. And considering, of course, how immensely talented he is, and considering the role that they have in mind for him, I think practices like the one he had on Tuesday at receiver and like the one he had Sunday at cornerback, those are just things that can make the Jaguars, in my opinion, feel a little vindicated. Because, anybody who has a chance to draft Travis Hunter is going to try to draft Travis Hunter. But the Jaguars pulled the trigger on a very big and long-lasting, in terms of impact, trade to get Travis. And when I think you're starting to see him put together the practice performances that he is at 2 different positions, you're starting to see why he very well could be worth that cost, and even more. So it was a big day for Travis Hunter. I thought DeAndre Brown had his best day of training camp. I'll be honest, there have been, at least the days, I've seen a quiet training camp for DeAndre Brown up to this point. I just hadn't seen him make many plays. There definitely had been a lot of almost plays, almost catches, etc., where guys are just breaking up the passes, whatever happens. But it just seems like up until Tuesday, not a guy who was making, a large impact. I think you saw it on Tuesday. And I'm not saying or thinking it didn't happen because of something wrong with DeAndre Brown. There's, Liam Cohen had a great example. He was talking about Trevor's footwork, and he noted on a play where Jordan Lewis broke up a pass for DeAndre Brown that was a near touchdown, that was on Trevor, because he's still working, through his footwork, still adjusting to that transition and what comes along with it. So we don't know the context of what happens when a play doesn't work. We really don't know, exactly what they're looking for in each specific drill. Only they know that. So I'm not saying DeAndre Brown wasn't making plays and trying to, say you should hit the panic button or anything on him. It's just, it's the reality. We had not seen it very often. That changed a good bit on Tuesday. He had one of the biggest gains of the day on a design run around the left side. Tyson Campbell pushed him out of bounds, but he, would have gotten plenty of yardage on the play had it happened in a real game. So you can probably expect him, in a lot of ways to, see the ball there as a ball carrier, as somebody who actually gets some design touches, those in the rounds, jet sweeps potentially built into his part of the playbook. You also saw him catch a deep ball from Trevor Lawrence over DeAndre Prince, and I believe it was either Eric Murray or Andrew Wingard, but it was a good day for DeAndre. I thought it was a good day for Trevor Lawrence. To me, it was the best that I've seen Trevor Lawrence's training camp. Not a lot of poor passes. He had one to Brian Thomas Jr. in the back of the end zone where I think he just flat out missed during the early 7-on-7 drills. Otherwise, I thought Trevor Lawrence had a good day. I thought he put the ball in a lot of good spots. I thought that he did a good job of both playing mistake-free football while also not just sitting back there and being content with being a point guard or a facilitator. He was actually going out there and being a playmaker, which is what the Jaguars need from him, simply put, in 2025. As far as guys who stood on the defense, I thought Ventrell Miller has continued a strong training camp and once again had a lot of positive plays. Fourier Oluokun as well. Emmanuel Ogbah, Josh Hines-Allen, and Jack Kaiser all had near be sacked. So in a regular season game, it would have been a sack. They just pulled up, etc. Because obviously we're in training camp. Thank you guys for listening to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. Please make sure you like and follow, subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all other podcast platforms. And also make sure you go find us on YouTube at Sports Videos on SI.